All right, so you really want to get right to the core of a story
Yeah.
without drowning in like a sea of details, right?
Well, absolutely.
I think that's kind of like the sweet spot we're aiming for today.
For sure.
Really fascinating kind of a convergence we're diving into, where like a personal story bumps right into like a huge public phenomenon.
Exactly. And the story we're looking at specifically is Freddie McClendon.
Oh, yeah.
You might remember him as a contestant on American Idol.
Right. But this isn't like your,
Right.
run-of-the-mill American Idol story.
No.
The article we've been digging into really zeroes in on Freddie's tribute to his dad.
Mm-hmm.
And here's where things get, like, super interesting.
Okay.
Freddie's father's murder. It wasn't just some local thing.
Yeah.
It kind of blew up into what the article calls a national true crime obsession.
Right.
It's like saying, hey, there were some things about this case
Right.
that really like grabbed people's attention,
Yeah.
stuck around in the news, continue to be a topic of conversation.
Absolutely. And what I think is so compelling here is that contrast.
Yeah.
You have this massive public platform like American Idol.
Right.
It's usually all about, entertainment, personal dreams and aspirations.
Totally.
And then it becomes this stage for something so incredibly personal,
Yeah.
an act of remembrance
Right.
tied to a very public and likely very disturbing event.
Yeah. I mean, just try to put yourself in Freddie's shoes for a second.
Oh, yeah.
The weight of that moment, right?
Shay.
Stepping onto this massive stage.
Billions watching.
Millions of eyes on you, and your performance is
Yeah.
in part a tribute to your dad.
Wow.
But it's not like quietly remembering him in private.
No.
This is remembering someone whose death was a national headline.
Yeah, it's a very different dynamic, isn't it?
Absolutely. The emotional layers there must be just so complex.
Right.
Navigating grief while chasing your own dreams,
Yeah.
and all under this intense spotlight from a public that already knows about your family's tragedy.
Absolutely. And the article really emphasizes how the murder became this national true crime obsession.
Right.
Now, while the source doesn't dive into specifics, and it's really important for us to respect that,
Right.
those details aren't ours to share.
Of course.
But the implication is clear.
Yeah.
There were things about this case
Yeah.
that really resonated with the public consciousness.
Okay, so we've got this very private, profound act of love and remembrance
Mm-hmm.
happening against the backdrop of a crime that was anything but private.
Right.
What do you make of that tension?
Well, it raises a really important question about our fascination with true crime.
Yeah.
Why do we gravitate toward these stories?
Yeah.
What fuels this national true crime obsession?
Right.
Is it just morbid curiosity? Or is there something deeper going on?
Right.
And what about the families caught in the middle?
Yeah.
What's it like for them when their personal trauma becomes this public spectacle,
Yeah.
subject to speculation and scrutiny?
Right.
For Freddie, navigating that likely meant this constant push and pull
Right.
between his personal grief
Right.
and the nation's narrative of his father's death.
That's a really interesting point.
Yeah,
And
right.
for Freddie to then stand in front of a very public,
Yeah.
not to rehash the details of the crime,
Right.
but to honor the person,
Mm-hmm.
his father.
Powerful.
There's just something so incredibly powerful about that.
I think so too.
It really speaks to the enduring strength of memory
Yeah.
and that human need to keep a loved one's spirit alive,
Absolutely.
even in the face of such challenging circumstances.
Especially that, maybe.
Especially then.
If we connect this to the bigger picture,
Yeah.
it really forces us to consider the human element within these true crime narratives.
Right.
It's so easy to get caught up in the sensationalism.
Right.
The mystery, but behind every case are real people,
Yeah.
real families grappling with unimaginable loss.
Absolutely.
Freddie's act on American Idol serves as this incredibly potent reminder of that fundamental truth.
All right, so to sum it all up for you today,
Okay.
we've been looking at how Freddie McClendon used a national platform to honor his father,
Right.
a man whose murder had become this significant national true crime obsession.
Yes,
It's such a striking image,
it is.
this deeply personal tribute intertwined with such a public and likely intense story.
And it leads us to a final thought.
Okay.
How do these very personal tragedies intersect with such widespread public fascination? What does it truly mean to honor someone you loved when their memory is also entangled with a widely known and potentially sensationalized crime?
Right,
It's a complex intersection.
for sure.
And Freddie McClendon's story, even in this brief look,
Yeah,
compels us to really consider the human hearts at the center of these events.
absolutely.
At
At the center of it all.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Thanks for having me.